We've made it through the first 3 steps of the process so far. We've observed and written down or verbally recorded just all of the word vomit that's spiraling around in our mind and in our mental space. We have identified what feeling is underneath all of that chaos, and we have sat with it and affirmed it and really given ourselves the space to acknowledge that it makes sense that we feel the way that we feel, and it's welcome. That feeling is welcome. Step 4 is called embody. This is the part where we get to feel the feeling, actually physically feel what's going on in our body. You can set yourself a timer for this. Theoretically, it should not take more than 90 seconds to 2 minutes. I don't like to work with shoulds. That has made me feel not great in the past when it seems like I'm feeling something for longer than that. But the physical experience of the feeling in our body is not something that you have to feel intimidated by, thinking that you're going to have to be with it forever and ever. So, if it helps to give yourself a time frame, set yourself a timer for 2 minutes or longer if you want, less time if you need to work up to 2 minutes. And in an environment that's quiet where you can really focus, which hopefully you're already in that environment throughout this process, really sink into the physical sensations. You can keep that hand on your heart, you can have a hand on your stomach, you can have a hand both places, and as best you can, stay present in your body. Step 5 has a part A and a part B. My disclaimer is that if you don't feel safe and you're not ready to do part A yet, you can skip to part B, and that is totally fine. It can be incredibly helpful to just check in with it, even if you don't think that it's relevant for whatever situation you're in. Or, if you're nervous, you can't handle it, you can always stop. You can, take a break, put a pin in it, move on, do something to regulate yourself again. All of step 5 is investigate. So the first part is to ask yourself where this trigger is initially coming from. Like way back, way back. When is the first time you can remember feeling this way in this type of situation? And it's really important not to put pressure on yourself here. I have certainly done that. Like, there's no way I can remember the first time this happened to me. Just be curious, be in the energy of curiosity rather than being attached to not knowing. It really helps to frame the question that way. I'm curious about when the first time was I felt this, and just see what comes in. Trust your mind to just pop something in there if you need to know it. It can take time. Sometimes just the process of asking that and then giving yourself a minute. If nothing comes in, move on. Having that space gives your whole person a chance to deliver that information to you at a time when you're ready to receive it. So it might come to you later in the day. It might come to you, a couple days later. In my experience, that flash of knowing and understanding comes after the part where I physically embody what's going on, which is why the steps are in the order that they are. But it's not always immediate. And so, again, just having that space, not putting any pressure, expectation on yourself to figure it out, but just inviting that to come to you if it's part of your process. And again, the disclaimer with this is not only that you don't have to do it if you don't feel comfortable, but that sometimes, we don't need to know. That's not always useful information for us. I like to understand things, and it makes me it really scratches an itch when I'm like, yes, this is initially where the pattern started, because I fucking love patterns. Obviously, we're here because of that, basically. Um, but it's not always necessary. And, so again, this is just if that part works for you, it's there for you. And I think I've said this already, but even if you think that what's going on is just something really surface level and simple, it doesn't hurt to ask and to be open to discovering that maybe there's more to this than you think. But sometimes we're just annoyed that our cat woke us up early in the morning and we can't shake that. Usually, if something is sticking with us, it's for a reason, but that is not always the case. So, that is my whole spiel about part A. Step 5, investigate. B is asking yourself, what beliefs would I have to have about myself, other people, or the world in order to feel the way that I do about this situation? And this is such a powerful question because you get to decide if the beliefs that you hold are working for you. Maybe they are, maybe they're not, but your beliefs are totally within the realm of your control. And it's not always as easy as just snapping your fingers, but it is as easy as you deciding and then sticking with that decision. Again, it's not always realistic to expect yourself to not remember those old beliefs, but a pattern is only a pattern as long as it's unconscious. Once it's in our conscious awareness, it becomes a choice. So once you have shed light on those beliefs, you can choose something different. You can choose something that serves you, that serves the direction you're heading in, the person you are choosing to become, the world that you want to live in. Step 6 might be my favorite part. Probably I'm not supposed to have favorites with the whole entirety of the process, but we get really juicy and fun with step 6 because when we integrate and alchemize, we get to use the energy that is in motion from the emotions that we're experiencing and direct it towards whatever we choose. So we're not getting rid of the original emotion. We have acknowledged it, we've accepted it, we've understood it as best we can if that's what we choose. And now we are using it to raise our vibration, to fuel our manifestations. And there are some really fun processes for doing this. My favorite one is called existential kink. And this is a guided meditation process. There's 3 options on YouTube. I will link to my favorite one in this email. So we are using the emotion that's in the physical body. We are connecting with the part of us that enjoys that emotion because there is a part of us that enjoys that emotion. Our higher self could not experience any emotion other than bliss, joy, love, wholeness, oneness, unless we were having this human experience through our ego. So there is always a part of us that is enjoying what we're going through. We take that enjoyment, we take that initial emotion, the don't like situation, and we transmute it into pleasure and sexual energy. And it is so fucking cool. The first time I did it, I was so flabbergasted. I just sat and laughed for a couple minutes. Like, I can do this? Holy shit. It doesn't mean that you have to physically pleasure yourself. You can. It's whatever you're comfortable with. But what a wild, fun idea. Like, again, it just blows my mind. It's a great practice. What I'm moving through does not always fit in with existential kink. If I'm moving through a lot of heavy grief, that doesn't feel to me like something I can turn into a lot of the time. Fear, anger, sure, done. And everyone's different. So, your experience is not going to be the same as mine. But regardless, if there's a situation that I don't feel is appropriate for EK or I'm just not feeling it, I use EFT, which is short for emotional freedom technique, and it's also called tapping. Tapping is exactly what it sounds like. You've probably heard of it or seen it done. We are stimulating meridian points on the body, and the meridian points are based on Chinese medicine and acupuncture. You can learn about that if you want to, if it's interesting to you. You don't have to know about it for the process to work. In a nutshell, we are calming our nervous system. And once we are accepting of where we are, um, we're no longer in resistance to it. So, both of these processes, that's the point. Once we're not in resistance to what we're experiencing, it no longer has to continue to manifest in our lives. And if it does, it doesn't bother us anymore because we've integrated it into our system. So either way, you're good. We can move on with life. We don't have to fear having this experience again, this emotion again. And it's also less likely that we will continue to have it. It's going to be with us until we have learned from it what we need to. But that process doesn't have to involve massive amounts of suffering if we've made peace with it and integrated it. And often that it in itself is what we need to learn from whatever we're experiencing. Something I want to mention too about tapping is that we always start out with the don't like part of the situation. We use the phrase even though and then fill in the blank. So, even though I'm feeling really angry and disrespected that my mom chose to speak to me in the way that she did, I fully and completely love and accept myself. So, my special caveat here is that if you have been in the manifestation world for a while, and if you have a history of trauma, OCD, which don't quote me on this, I personally feel like those two things are linked. I know they are in my experience. I don't know if modern science has like proven that or accepted that, whatever. It can be easy to get in the headspace of we don't say things out loud that we don't want. And that is valuable in a lot of ways. It's not applicable here because the entire point of what we're trying to do is to get our body to feel safe with something that we have resistance to. So we're integrating it, we're alchemizing it. That's the whole point. And it doesn't hold the same amount of power over us when we can be in safety, when our nervous system feels safe with the situation that is our reality in this moment. That's how we can transmute it into something that we do want. So don't feel scared to speak that out loud. That is the starting point, that's integral to the process. The last step, step 7, is called expand. And this is where we are going to take our beliefs from step 5, part B, and we are going to rewrite them as statements that we know are true. The beliefs that we unveiled, that we uncovered in the earlier steps, are things that we know aren't true, or we are deciding not to believe any longer. We're choosing something expanded instead. You can use the beliefs that you identified if you need more material to work with, or you didn't, come to, you didn't find beliefs in the way that you wanted to at that particular step. You can go back to part 1 where you just have that mental diarrhea, the anxiety that was rushing around in your mind. And there's usually some pretty clear threads through there that are fueling the emotion that you're experiencing. It's important to push yourself some, but not to the point where you feel like you are gaslighting yourself. So you're the one that knows that fine line. And that is growth and expansion, is playing in those edges of our comfort zone where we're not comfortable, but we haven't gone so far that we're like, yeah, right, are you fucking crazy? You know where you are at. I'll give you an example in case this doesn't make sense. The example limiting belief is I'll never have enough time to get all the things done I have to do. So you might expand that a little bit and say, I always get done what I need to do. Anything I don't get done will be okay. I release my attachment to completing my to-do list. I am always in the right place at the right time. A more expanded version of that might be time is malleable and subjective. Time works for me. I expand time in the spaciousness of my divinity. Time is another element of myself as God. My focus in presence is timeless. So, just depending on where you're at, what your belief system is, how much you have integrated certain concepts are going to change how you rewrite and expand these beliefs. But the point is that you are consciously choosing what to believe. And that is so fucking powerful. There is an extra juicy option here for you if you are experiencing fear, and it is called the worst case scenario. So, whatever you are scared of, it might be your worst case scenario, it might not. If it's not, go all the way there. Go into the worst possible thing that you are scared of happening. Write it down, journal it out, verbalize it, record it onto the Notes app in your phone. Sit with that. Again, do not be scared that you're going to manifest this situation, because it takes incredible bravery to face your fears. You are manifesting more courage for yourself. You are manifesting more power because you are willing to face the shadow things that you have pushed out of your conscious awareness. You are bringing them to light. So sit in the energy of this worst case scenario and then ask yourself, what are the positives that could come from this situation? This is alchemy. This is so incredibly powerful. Once you start to think about it, there are going to be a lot more things that come to your mind that are positive about your worst case scenario than you probably ever expected. Because you are willing to experience this situation energetically and confront that fear, you are taking away the necessity of yourself experiencing it in the physical reality to learn the lesson. And we're not doing this so that we can control what happens to us, but because it's an opportunity for growth. And because expansion isn't a linear thing that just happens upwards, we expand downwards as well. We're expanding in all directions. It's a circle and not a skyscraper. Expanding downwards and excavating our shadow is enabling us to hold more positive things in our life as well, more abundance, more joy, more creativity, more love. So, in part two, we have embodied, we've investigated, we have integrated and alchemized, and we have expanded. And I want to add one last note that if you have completed this whole process and you are still feeling lingering remains of the initial emotion that you started with, congratulations. You are a human being and there is nothing wrong with you. You didn't mess something up. It's not that it didn't work for you, and it's totally okay. So, that is just a thing that happens. We don't always completely shift all fragments of the initial emotion into things that feel good, and that's okay. So, what you can do with this is invite the fear, invite the grief, invite the anger to come along with you throughout the rest of your day. Hey, fear, you're here. I love you. You are welcome. I'm going to go do some things to nourish myself, to raise my vibration, things that make me happy. And you are welcome. Please come along with me. This way, you don't have to feel like you are repressing anything. You've done the process, you've gone into the emotion, and now it's time to get moving. You're going to get some other shit done, but you're not abandoning it, you're not leaving it behind. It is absolutely welcome to come with you. And as you move on about the rest of your day, maybe you'll notice it. Maybe you'll get more opportunities to say, hey, I see you. I'm here with you. You're welcome. And I love you. And more likely than not, you will be able to shift into a space where you're not noticing it. No matter what happens, whether either thing happens, both are okay. Doesn't mean anything is wrong. That's just part of the process. Sometimes we coexist with emotions for a long time. And the part of the importance of this process is learning for that to be okay so that we're not constantly feeling like we're poking a sore spot when we notice them. Instead, we notice them and we're like, okay, cool, I can handle this. Let me know how I can support you with this process. I have all of this written down in a PDF. And for my mind personally, it's so helpful for me to see things laid out. For other people, this might be much more helpful to listen to a video. It might be nice for you to have both. So if you want the PDF, please let me know and I will be happy to send it to you. Try the process, give it a try. If it doesn't work for you, that's okay. There will be something else that does, but I know how powerful this is because I know how deeply it has changed my experience, and I want that for you. And I am here to support you in any way that you need.